So I'm Nicole Chimbetete. I am with the Minnesota Department of Health. So just to create a clear distinction right off the bat, MDA has been the sponsoring organization of this. They have been distributing this Good Food Access Program grant opportunity for many years, and it's something that we get to urge our grantees to apply to as well. But it's interesting that we're here on the wonderful work that Region 5 did to make sure that we get here. So they're our partner organization. We work with them on a lot of nutrition strategies, but we're not like the same people. And they've just been really instrumental to some of our work too.
I'm Kathy Harlan. I'm with the Purple Carrot Market in Little Falls, which is, as good many of you know, is an emerging food co-op.
Wow.
So we are not open. We're still gaining enough members to get to that.
Okay. I saw a sign for it right by like the parking lot.
Good.
So.
We just distributed those
Monday
yard
night.
signs. Good job,
Great.
guys.
Great visibility.
Visibility, thank you. Yeah, that's what we wanted.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I can go
We
next.
just started our evaluation with that comment.
Yep.
I'm Darlene Brand, and I'm also with the Purple Carrot Market. Kathy is the president of our group. I'm also on the board.
Okay. Awesome. Nice to meet you.
I'm Sherry Straight from Wadena Home Foods. I'm her newest employee.
Oh.
Barb brought me along.
Okay. Awesome. Hi. Find a seat anywhere.
So
Should be
I'm
an
Barb
agenda.
Benjamin. I own Don Home Foods in Wadena.
Okay.
Sherrill Hills, Region 5.
Terry Roser and with the Countryside Co-op in Hackensack.
Nice.
Jesse Goble, Sewing Food Co-op.
Bonnie Coffee with the Ideal Green Market in Pequot Lakes.
I'm Sana and I work here at Sprout.
I'm Natalie, and I also work at Sprout, and I'm on the board of the Purple Carrot Market.
Awesome.
Pia Lopez, Minnesota Street Market in St. Joseph.
And I'm Susan Bishop. I'm here from the Minnesota Department of Health. My role there is I lead the Healthy Communities team in our office. And so I'm really here to listen and learn from all of you because we're trying to figure out our best ways as public health entities to support healthy retail across the state. So I'm really here to listen and learn, and
Yeah. Susan's my
really
supervisor.
looking forward to this.
I was like, Susan told me a piece of intel that like I could get my breakfast today, and I was like, I should travel with my supervisor more often. She actually knows our employee handbook, and I'm like, cool, okay. So like Susan said, we're from the Minnesota Department of Health. I do have a clicker, but primitive ways. We're from the Minnesota Department of Health. Our vision is for all people in Minnesota to enjoy healthy lives and healthy communities, and a whole bunch of values. Most of them are around respect, accountability, and integrity. And then within MDH, there's many divisions. Ours is the Office of Statewide Health Improvement Initiatives. We are the distributor of the SHIP grant, which is a legislatively mandated grant that we distribute to various counties around Minnesota to do active living, healthy eating, and tobacco-free communities initiatives around the state. And within OSHI, there's the healthy eating team, which is part of Susan's team, which is the team that I'm on. And so we work with various partners all over Minnesota, mostly local public health, and then they have a plethora of partners, and some of which might be in the room today. But that's what we do, basically increasing access, availability, and affordability of healthy foods by working with those partners. So just to get an idea of what SHIP does or where it is, we're in 87 counties, 10 tribal nations. Like I said, we have a plethora of partners with SHIP. So everything under workplaces, childcare, schools, healthcare communities, all of that, various partner sites, and then many partnerships. And then we engage a lot of community leaders, such as Regional 5 development committees, all of that stuff. And we estimate that our reach is about 2 million people in the state, and that we engage about 700 partners. So kind of widely spread. And as you can see, there's dots where probably you are. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how SHIP is strategically one of the partners that you can engage in some of the work that you do. So I am Nicole. Like I said, I'm the Food Access Associate. I'm from Zimbabwe. I came to Minnesota when I was 18 for college. I went to St. Catherine University to get my dietetics degree, graduated in 2016, realized that people in clinics are a very hard demographic to talk to about healthy food while they're ill, for the most part, or really struggling. I felt that there was a need to catch people before they even get into the hospital. Yeah. So that's why I went. That's why I went into public health. So I got my MPH in nutrition, graduated last year, and then my path is ending at MDH pretty soon. In early July, I'm going to San Diego to study a PhD program in public health, still in nutrition. So again, my passions are nutrition-related health disparities, no specific population, just anyone affected by health disparities is my population of interest. And then, public health, food access. Love traveling, I love brunch, I love biking, I love yoga, and ice cream is an actual passion of mine. And my goal this year is to skydive.
So did you get scared away from winter this last year? Is that why you're going to San Diego?
It's been 6 years, so I like to say that I've served my time. I really did stick it through.
Acclimated.
Yes, I even drive in this weather. There's a lot of things that I'm able to do in this weather that I otherwise would not have done. So I like to say that I served my time. So that's my family, my people, and picking raspberries in California. So what we're going to be talking today about is healthy retail. This is one of the areas that Susan and our team work on in healthy eating. But we don't only do, there's healthy retail, and the buckets under that are stores, restaurants, farmers markets, all of that. But we also do work with food shelves. We do work with schools and all those other community settings. So it's a really vast range of everything we do, but healthy retail is where specifically I work. And I have been working with a lot of SHIP grantees to do healthy retail work throughout Minnesota. We have a pilot going on right now. It's wrapping up, and we can't wait to see the results of that and share them soon. So I understand that I'm the public health person. Susan and I are the public health people. So I wanted to talk about how healthy retail is something that inherently is part of the work that you guys do. And so just to translate that to market expansion. Technically, what we will be doing is talking about how you can enhance your product or have things placed in a specific way, so for marketing, and then also engage your community, because that all has the result of bringing in a bigger customer base and being able to have a more diverse offering of products to be able to bring more people in. So that's the ultimate goal. And so we totally understand that. And so we're kind of framing it as this is where public health meets the business sector. And so how can we grow together that way? So we're going to be covering healthy retail as a market expansion strategy. We're going to go through some of those strategies. We're going to do a lot of brainstorming about what we're going to do with our organizations today. So be ready to have more discussion. I'm going to outline some existing examples, including the stuff that we've done with SHIP. And then I'm going to talk about how we can apply an equity lens so that we can also get into some of the stuff that you talked about as far as what you want to learn. So how to maintain volunteers, how to get to new demographics, how to even retain shoppers. That's all part of community engagement. And that all is something we have realized equity is a really big part of too. Ooh. See, I'm pointing at you guys now. So just to go over why healthy food access is important to us and just what we know from the Minnesota Department of Health related to it. So Minnesota right now ranks, as of 2017, ranked 7th worst in the country for food access and healthy food access specifically. And what that means is the proximity of people to grocery stores or other stores that do supply healthy food. Roughly about 200,000 Minnesotan residents live more than 10 miles away from a grocery store. So people aren't getting, not everyone is able to have easy access to healthy food right now. And Greater Minnesota has about 24 counties that have been designated federally designated as a food desert. So that means 24 counties are really high as far as having food deserts in them. And then we do know that communities that don't have healthy food access do have worse health outcomes. So just talking about how that's important right now. So the landscape of Minnesota right now. So the ugly brown couch color is communities that have lost each of those different organizations or types of organizations. The green, or that aqua, whatever it is, as you can see it, is communities that have gained each of those organizations. Then the white is no change at all. So starting with, there we go. Starting with this area, grocery stores, as you can see, most have lost grocery stores over 2007 to 2012, and these are current as of 2017. So most communities have been losing grocery stores, and the concentration of it has been in Greater Minnesota. However, there's been an influx of supercenters in various places, quite evenly distributed, and that might sound like a really great thing. So like having Walmarts around, having Targets around, they have a wonderful distribution system, blah, blah, blah. They provide fruits and vegetables because they're a supercenter. But what we have is this happening in those communities. Convenience stores are heavily affected by the introduction of superstores in communities. And what you'll find is that just local economics or the local economy suffers when there's a big influx of supercenters. So our landscape it can use some work. And so that's why we wanted to that's why there is a need to expand where people are getting food, go into different areas. And so food co-ops are a really big part of being part of this landscape and changing things as well.
So does it mean that like convenience stores are getting the customers because the super centers, you need a car more than likely to get there, and if people don't have transportation, they're left with going to dollar stores and
so this is actually
so
this is showing that convenience stores actually left the community. They closed. So more people were now doing a lot of cross-border travel. I think you guys know about that, where people go from county to county to go to the next Walmart, which is like 20 miles away. They have to travel far and all of that because they're going to a Walmart. What happens is the local economy that they're leaving to go to the Walmart or to the Target ends up getting drained, pretty much. Community dollars exit in that way too.
I'm in Stearns County, and we're actually seeing both an increase in supercenters and an increase in
convenience stores.
I mean, for example, my little co-op is in a town of 7,100 people, and we now have 5 convenience stores.
Yeah.
And lots of supercenters within 10 miles.
Exactly. And there's been a lot of, this is from 2017 and this was recorded from 2007, so many things have changed. This also includes all that fluctuation that happens over the years. We work with convenience stores specifically as well because we see an opportunity there too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the food system is changing by talking a little bit more about the many ways that other people can get healthy food outside of supercenters and outside of grocery stores, and how convenience stores have actually presented an opportunity for us. But areas, other areas such as food co-ops are extremely strong in this, and just very unique. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that too, but that's a really good point.
Have you investigated, like Pia said that the number of convenience stores are increasing. I think the point of entry to open a convenience store, the dollar amounts, because a lot of times it's done by people of other, backgrounds and races if you go into large cities. It must be rather low, to start a store, because you'll get you need this money to start the thing, but the entry point is low, and that's why there's a proliferation
And the permit
of
process is easier.
the what?
The permit process is also
Yes.
It
easier
is.
with the city.
Yes.
or
And then you
wherever.
sell lottery tickets and smokes, and do all that kind of stuff, which brings in money for them.
So when you talk about convenience stores, you're not necessarily talking about dollar stores that may have some canned goods, or is that included in that?
That's also included.
Okay.
But Dollar General is actually doing some interesting work around fresh produce too. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Dollar General is very aggressive in central Minnesota. They're expanding all over the place.
Yeah, we saw one that just opened on our way here too.
Yeah, they have a very aggressive strategy.
Yeah, and and there's something about having that chain of stores too. Quick Trip is doing the same thing. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go. So federally designated food desert areas, like I said, these are areas where a grocery store is more than 10 miles away. And so, as you can see, Minnesota has quite a bit going on, mostly in greater Minnesota again, but little pockets, very concentrated little pockets in the metro area. But I just wanted to zoom in on this region. So some areas within where we are right now are facing some disparities around healthy food access and having healthy food available. And so those are all opportunities to expand, increase, engage more people, so that you can have more people coming to the stores. And then for us, we get the benefit of seeing more people having healthy food as well, and having access to healthy food. Is there anyone in any of these food deserts? Anyone see one? I'm gonna go to, I think, no, wait, I don't know why. Yeah, Medina's on there. Yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit more about how you see your communities possibly having food-related or nutrition-related health disparities. This is just an introductory way just to show what the research is showing, but that's sort of what we're looking at. Is there anyone in any of these counties right now? But this is the one right next to us, the region right next to us, West Central. And with people moving across borders, there might be some opportunity on the west side of Becker and Otter Tail and Douglas. Just to go over it again, about 22% of, well, just before looking at that, I guess, but 22% of Americans are able to get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, which is what the dietary guidelines recommend. So only 1/5 of the national population is able to actually meet the dietary guidelines. And then in Minnesota, we do the behavioral risk factor surveillance system, which is, we distribute it here. And so we do have some data for us ourselves. Only 1 in 3 Minnesotans did not consume at least 3 servings of vegetables. So that means, at least 1 serving, So out of 3 people, only 1 person was not able to consume 1 serving. Now, if you're thinking about what that standard is, it's pretty low. So we don't have data about like, oh, what's a 2, what's a 3 servings and all of that. But if we're thinking that people are supposed to have 1 serving, and that's sort of where we are as a state, there's a lot of work to still be done. And so SHIP plays a role in trying to get to more people as well, but so many other organizations, so many partners can be part of the solution. And also just in general, when communities are able to have access to healthier food, you have a stronger community. And when it's also local organizations that are supplying, community dollars are able to actually stay in the community. You just have more resilient communities by having people that are part of the workforce, healthy people in the workforce, and also community dollars staying in communities. So the various dimensions of access that we deal with or look at, or how we see access, is it includes availability of food. So is there enough food in the community, or is there enough food around so that people can actually buy it? When we're thinking of the organizations that we have, do we know that everyone is able to access our store, for example? Are there rails for those with disabilities? And outside of just the actual store, are people actually able to make it too? So if you have communities with elderly populations, how is the mobile or the transportation system supporting them to be able to get there? Do you have walkable pathways? Do you have bikeable pathways? All of that stuff. So that's all accessibility. And that's another emerging area that we work on, which is quote unquote, safe routes to healthy food. So that's also another intervention area. Affordability, thinking about cost or perception of worth relative to price. Are people able to just afford the food? If the food is available, is it worth the amount or the cost that is put on the tag? And that's a really tough part to intervene on, but it's something that we think about. Accessibility, what is the quality of the food? What is the freshness? Is everyone in your community, do they eat the food that you supply regularly? So is every culture sort of represented in your store? And are people able to come in and get what they need to? And then as far as accommodation, this is something that usually maybe food shelves run into the most, but other organizations do. But like, what are the hours of your operation? Is it open on weekends? Is it open for people who work super late? All of that. Those are all areas that we see as access areas within healthy food access. So how we see the interventions that we do is through policy, systems, and environmental changes. That sounds really jargony, but essentially it is under policies, what is the employee conduct expectations around anything? What is in the employee handbook? What are the ordinances that might be in your community that support any of this work? We're gonna go into another community that used a policy to have healthy food be more available to people. Systems, it could be internal to your organization. If you didn't have a point of sale system before, if you didn't have a way to accurately measure if healthy foods are being purchased, at what weight, are you having enough to order, is there a constant turnover, how are you merchandising, how are you handling, those are all systems changes that go into healthy access. So you could change handling practices so that food does not go bad on the shelf as often, and so more people are actually able to buy that food, and also you don't have to deal with waste. So any of that is like a systems change. The environment, that's more into marketing, which is everything we talked about there. So those are marketing outside of the organization and within the organization, all play a role in behavior change. So if you have someone who's in the store, and we know that the research says that most of the decisions that people make, buying decisions, are subconscious, they're impulse buys. And so how can we create an environment in the store that makes the healthiest choice the easiest choice? And that's something to think about as well. Whether it's end shelf marketing, healthy checkout, what kind of environment do you have, and does it support healthy choices? So there are many PSC changes that you can do, which means just any kind of changes, but and then there's going to be lots of workshops that are going to go into some of these, especially like, okay, how do you have enough money to increase locations and all of that? But we're just going to touch on these two, which is how to increase the stocking of healthy foods and how to do healthy checkout lanes, which also is just in general a marketing technique for within the store. So marketing, how we see marketing is in 4 pieces: placement, product, price, and promotion. Placement is how your store looks, how the aisles are stocked, how the shelves are stocked, eye-level placement of healthy foods rather than eye-level placement of Coke or whatever it is. And just sort of how things are placed, is it intuitive so that people are able to walk around and make healthy choices. Product is what is in your store. What are you investing the most into getting into the store, and how can you change that so that your store actually has a lot of healthy options available, even within the buckets of what customers like. So how can you read nutrition labels to make sure that, okay, we realize people like protein bars, but can we get the right protein bars? Can we get protein bars that have other benefits, such as low sugar, low fat, and all of that stuff? So it's just sort of what you're putting in your store, and if there's any flexibility around that to change things. Promotion, that's everything: signage, how you're talking about your food in the community, your posts everywhere, whether that's on social media and all of that. That all goes into promotion. And then price is, this one is usually used in combination with other strategies. So you could have bananas on sale and then combine that with placement to put them in like the end shelf that day. That way they just they get out the door. So price is usually something that is combined with other things, but that's basically changing the price point so that people can buy the healthy choices. Another thing that we found with price, for example, is that the research does say that if you price water less than than like soda and pop, people are more likely to buy water. So sometimes preference for pop comes down to impulse as well. So as long as people are looking at it and they're like, well, this is cheaper and I'm just thirsty, they might make different choices just based on price. So we're gonna be, oh yeah.
Healthy checkout lanes.
Yeah, we're gonna go into that a little bit, but healthy checkout lanes is, Target rolled this out in their organization, but other places do it differently, and we do many interventions around it through SHIP. When that sort of point of sale area, as people arrive to like check out, there is so much research, market research, public health research about how that area is a very interesting behavioral economics area. So when you get in, usually people will buy something from the healthy checkout area. And now the question is how to make it healthier so that people are just like grabbing the banana on their way out. They're realizing, oh man, I'm gonna have like a meeting, I should grab this orange now. Can't go all the way back into the store. So basically it's a placement technique that we have found that other states, other organizations are using. It's a really big intervention area, which is just reformulating everything there. So it could be shelves, which is the beverage shelves that are standing on the floor, or it could be countertop healthy checkout. So having baskets, having fruit baskets, those multi-level shelves, so that people are making those impulse buys right at the point of sale. Yeah. All right, so I guess I just wanted to highlight a couple things that SHIP has done or that we have in place for the people that we work with and the stores that we work with. Again, that's mostly convenience stores, but we also work with other stores that SHIP is able to talk to or be part of this. So our brand that we use, which is basically a brand that can be put in stores for people that don't have the resources or the time or the effort to make a marketing campaign. So we kind of made one for them. So we worked with a graphic design company to design the signage that our ship coordinators would be able to work with stores to be able to have in theirs. And so it's called the Good Food Sold Here brand, and we designed it in its own way. We don't like hang. Yep, go ahead.
Before you go into it, how does one get to be a part of this? Like, how do you pick the convenience stores, and like, how do you get to be one of these stores that participates?
Yeah. Contact your local ship coordinator. All of the ones here work on healthy eating. I will be sending out a email with everything. So I'm going to go over so that email will have links to all the people which aren't SHIP, so Extension, MISA through the University of Minnesota, the Minnesota Institute of Sustainable Agriculture. These are all organizations that are dedicated to supporting retailers like you too. So SHIP and then other places. So I'll definitely send out a follow-up email with all of that because there's so many to
But how do you
cover.
pick convenience stores to be your target?
Yeah, actually, that's a Susan question.
Yeah, so, we're really trying to elevate addressing disparities. And where there are food deserts, it's often the only place in the community is a small grocer or a retail store. And so we work with local public health to identify those stores that are, one, interested and willing, and then we get, Nicole's gonna talk about this more, but we have a whole kind of like some minimal stocking standards that help stores get to some kind of notion of having healthy foods available. Co-ops, I think, is a little different in that that's so much of the aim that but again, co-ops are in that group of stores that don't have a lot of resources. So we're trying not to work with large grocers who have more resources.
Because I was going to say, convenience stores are almost all parts of gigantic chains that already have economies of scale and stuff. So are you just trying to persuade them to offer certain kinds of food, or are you trying to, like, how do they qualify for help based on finances, for example? Like, I mean, you're using public money to help convenience stores that are probably mostly part of a giant national chain, right?
So most of the stores that we work with aren't part of chains.
Okay, so they're independent.
It's someone who has always had a store in their family, and they're kind of, for the most part, they really do need the help to keep their business. It might not be people who've always had it as part of their family. They just want a convenience store. It's not always gas stations, but we do work with those, and a lot of those are local too. So, we're not working with. Actually, so Quick Trip does its own thing, and we're just happy to support, but they're not part of our stores, for example.
I object to that. I morally
For
object
example.
to that.
They are, if that's where people get food,
yeah.
we are happy to support, and usually we haven't had a lot of people, Quick Trip doesn't need us, and they're not our target audience for who we work with. What our ship coordinators do is go into community and recruit local stores, local owners, and work with them to increase their stocking standards, put placement objectives in place so that they're able to do more. A lot of the store owners that we work with are already motivated to put more healthy food in their stores, and they do have an interest in health. Yes, we run into things like that's also the same store where tobacco is being sold and pop is being sold. But when you're working with someone who it's just like a mini version of Target. Everyone needs to make money, but all the store owners that we're working with do have a vested interest in the community's health, and that's part of the reason why they're signing the MOU with us and then continuing on that way. Another thing is, what we found with our store owners is that they are so willing to collaborate, so they are inherently ready to form partnerships with anyone in the community. So whether it's just SHIP or finding opportunities where my store and that person's store can order from the same distributor, and then we can find ourselves on the same distribution line, because chances are that person needs to go to a Costco, Walmart to put food in their store. That drives up the price point. So what our ship coordinators do is sort of help help make connections with other food leaders within the community to make more collaborative models for this. So it's not, so Quick Trip is not like, we don't work with them, we don't have like specific like people where we're like, oh, we had to increase the stocking standards of Quick Trip. Quick Trip did its own thing, but it's, if we were to have convenience stores in communities, we would want them to be having more healthy food and all of that. So those are the ones that we work with. And then
We've worked with retailers who like really just don't even have the capacity to get
at all, to even get SNAP, to get WIC. Yeah, I have 2 grantees.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
You can move on.
It's fine. No, but I have 2 grantees that can't even, like, they're the ones that like go into the mailbox to sort through to make sure that that person received their WIC check. Like, that's how like low capacity some of the stores are. Okay, so we'll go into each area that we have, you know, resources for, that we can help stores do their work through. The first, like Susan talked about, is stocking. This is like really tiny, but oh gosh, of course. So, so for example, if a store only has one variety of fruit, first we define what a healthy fruit is. Frozen or canned fruit or fresh. This is like sort of baseline, so not like high. But yeah, so for fruit only, frozen or canned fruit without sugar. Then there's the fresh produce section, which does accurately outline that it's fresh fruit or vegetables. If they only have one, by signing an MOU with us, they're expected to go to 2. If they already have 2, then they go up by 1. So it's just challenging them to go into each of these areas of things that they stock, that they sell, to increase their stocking of it. Whole grain items, for example, people don't think about that often, and a lot of stores don't even have 1. So we expect that they have 1, and then they increase to 2 if they already have 1. So this is like really low capacity stores that aren't as motivated, well, aren't inherently motivated by health from like the time that we find them. So it's stores that we're hoping will look a little bit like yours at some point one day. So yeah, and then after that, we help them with all of those placement strategies, how to display things, how to put signs up, where to put them, collecting input from customers about preferred healthy options, really low level, trying to get them to do engagement, promotion, placement, and just having the product for it. Then our grantees will go in to the stores and sort of just make sure that before they put up any signs, have any marketing, that they actually are meeting any of these requirements. So they'll go in and fill out something that looks like this, just a checklist of everything. Within each of the things that we do, we try add education pieces for the store owner so that they can have an understanding of what healthy food means and trying to reinforce that so that they understand. It's one of the things where our SHIP coordinators are literally coaching stores through this. Some were like, oh, you should come by the store. We had a store owner who asked our SHIP coordinator to come by. They're so excited about how they got these new energy bars. They're like, you should come by. None of them were like on our standards for like what we considered a healthy energy bar, but they were just so excited about it. And so it's something that that's an example of how like we are there to constantly reinforce, or SHIP people are there to constantly reinforce. And so the SHIP coordinators that we work with, really like this is low level work, but a lot of them have capacity to be working with grocery stores, other organizations. So we train them all exactly the same way to be able to cover all of these topics and be competent to like guide stores of different types through this kind of work. So they're a really good resource. I'd say one of the strengths of SHIP that I really like is that community engagement is it's the very baseline of what we do, and that they're able to guide stores through before you put something out, have you talked to your customers about what they need, and then going back and doing it that way. So the community engagement pieces that they offer, evaluation, being able to, talk to customers. Have you been able to see these signs? Were they clear enough? Did they help you make any decisions? And all of that. That's all stuff that we do through our work. So that was like one store which really didn't have anything close to the healthy checkout line, which is the one on my left. And they, through the Good Food Access Good Food Access Program grant, which is the same one that Region 5 applied for, but they applied for the TA one. There's one that purchases equipment. So they just went ahead and purchased a fruit basket, floor standing, stocked it up with a couple cool things. Fruit at the top. They did still have chips, but they actually were low sodium and complied with some of the stuff that we actually asked them to do. So we were like, you know what, this is great. Also, they offer WIC. So if you think about that priority population, this is just a really great way to get to them as well. This is end shelf marketing. It's an example of end shelf marketing. On this shelf, so end shelf is not healthy checkout, but it is the very end part of the shelf, like as you go from aisle to aisle. There's a lot of market research around this area too. So not only healthy checkout, but end shelf marketing. As people are just, somehow that is a really highly invested in area of stores. Companies will pay lots of money to have their stuff at the end shelf. A lot of impulse buys happen there. Or subconscious or whatever it is. And a lot of sale items go here too. If you go to Target, if you haven't noticed, all the sale stuff is at the end shelf. And so this is really high traffic zone. So what they did through the Good Food Access Program as well was purchase these nifty baskets, put a whole bunch of fruit and vegetables in, including some ways to complement that. So I don't know, people who like putting onions in their potatoes, they were able to get both. So yeah, it's kind of a nifty way that we were helping stores do more healthy food marketing.
Cool.
Laura bars at the top.
Sort of distinguished.
And then, so like I said, we worked with graphic designers to get things available. This is how a store was hanging theirs. All our branded stuff, we do, if they sign our MOU, they do have to agree to how we have designed them to be placed. The reason for that is because we're also going through an education process about what healthy food is. When something is off and they put like the good food sold here under the white bread, for example, okay, but that's not exactly where it's supposed to be. And then also a lot of the signage that we created and how it should be posted as well is evidence-based too. So a whole bunch of work was done in here to go through market information, market research information, public health information to sort of see where and behavioral economics. So much reading went into that. So this is sort of like, our little evidence-based guide of like things that could work for your store. So yeah, a whole bunch of stuff was done there. Then these were the recipe cards that we were talking about. I do agree that they're not great as standalone products. Like if you just put it right by the by the tortillas, probably not a great idea. But if you add a little bit of merchandising to this, it can be a pretty strong tool. This is like what other stores have done. This is not our stuff, it's not our work bucket, but this is just what Quick Trip did. Instead of every time someone walks into, goes to their gas station and they have like all of this available, they now have fruit and vegetables being promoted, which is, again, they're not our stores, but they're working on something, and it's sort of something that we're like, well, if we have gas stations, this might be a good example for them to follow. They've put out a weekly newsletter of stuff. I have nothing against meat, by the way. I just realized that there's 2 meat examples, but this is something that they started adding in their newsletters, just a whole, like, make sure you get your breakfast in the morning and just all that stuff. Also, something that we've been talking to our SHIP coordinators about is to talk to the gas station employees about marketing of products. So usually when you come in and someone is like, well, don't forget that we have 2 donuts and a pop going for $2 today. Some stores have been willing to have their employees be trained in being like, don't forget we have like 2 bananas and a water for $2 today. So just sort of retraining your staff about how to talk about healthy food or being competent to be part of the discussion has been very helpful too, especially for the staff that are willing to participate. So just going back to how we see this, policy systems and environmental changes are how we talk about it, but again, it's really everything that all your organizations deal with in many ways. These are just the names for it, I guess, or how we see it. But they happen at a store level, they happen at a company level, and they can happen at the community level. So I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of examples there. So an example of a policy change that happened in the community level is Minneapolis Public Health. They supported 260 stores to be able to have better options and also to be able to meet WIC minimal stocking standards based off this is a model that's now being used nationally. So if you go to Minneapolis and you go through some of the convenience stores, a lot of them are meeting the stocking standards. An example of a systems change on the store level is in Pierce, Minnesota. One of the grocery stores took photos of people in the community and created a little blurb next to it and then made it part of their carts. So this is a way that is not only community engagement, but it's just a way that we were talking earlier in this group about how communities are very supportive to organizations that they can relate with or can relate to. And so when you show that obviously you're invested in the people of the community, you know your customers, you know what Bev likes to bake. It's a way of being like, well, these are my people. Like, of course I'll buy here all the time. And so how can SHIP help? Could do a store visit, do the actual recruitment of the customers on site, possibly, and then like talk through that. So it can be extra hands. Not all SHIP people have the capacity to do the work as hands-on, but they are really great we do a lot with, as far as healthy eating initiatives with community engagement. So this would be really strong for them too. So SHIP is connected to Extension, for example. Extension runs SNAP-Ed. If SNAP-Ed is in your community, that means the SNAP-Ed educator has a whole bunch of people that they meet with regularly. Those people, if you do a community event, they could come to your store and do a store tour, for example. Or if they ask, like, do you guys shop here? And they do, they could be the picture people. So there are just many ways that you can like think through how your community is so instrumental, and then how many partnerships are in your community to make things happen. Like, because the thing with food access work is you don't always have to do it on your own. And especially when you're able to identify food leaders in your community, so much good work comes out of that. Not only for the current project, but for the next. So, okay. So, gonna just flip through this. This is, those buzzwords are in the front, all the things that you can do and what we recommend. My main thing, I'm really big proponent of what's for us should be with us and all of that. So really going into your community, digging into how you can best serve the customers in your area or potential customers in your area. I was going to talk a little bit about this. This is just the slide. I was going to talk about how the slide is about everyone is a swimmer to health in some kind of way. Some people are ahead, some people are behind. How can your organizations, for example, be part of the push to health in communities? I got to at least do that spiel. So yeah, just going through that, we're gonna send out the slide anyway, but cultivate relationships with local suppliers, like you said, having the farmer's face available all the time or as much as possible, linking them with shoppers, supporting shoppers who are transitioning to healthy diets. Another thing I was gonna say, when someone mentioned about multilingual, the Good Food Access Program, all our branding is all in Somali and Spanish as well. So yeah, so if you want to work with your ship coordinator to get some of our Good Food Sold Here branding, I mean, you don't have to pay for it, but you know what I mean? It's something that, if people are in your store, then they can at least be guided through it in a language that they understand. You don't have to accept government benefits, but it's definitely a way of diversifying or expanding your customer base. It's up to you. We found that, at least for convenience stores, that's usually how more people end up coming into their stores for healthy food. And employing members of the community is something you already do, but then also, when you're employing members of the community, is everyone you hire representative of that community too? So you can also push yourself a little bit on that about how you're representing your community.
What do you mean by provide transportation to increase purchase size?
Yeah, so, well, this was basically about distribution lines. But in general, so Susan has an example, we have an example of how there are many cities that have restrictions on the number of bags you can have in a bus if you are using public transportation. And so this is also a planning thing, you can actually sit on the conversations where this happens, but how can you help with getting people to your store or going back, whether it's the location you have, the people you're able to work with to increase transportation options. Ship coordinators have done so much connecting as far as transportation. I don't know about what has happened in this region, but so many things around transportation are very pertinent around food access. So by purchase size, it's so that someone doesn't have to feel like, okay, I can only buy the things I need for the chili tonight, and it cannot be, I can't add an orange or whatever, or a watermelon. How can you just get people to...
And the reason for that, you guys, just so you understand, it's not shame on the transportation providers. The average age of a transit driver or a dial-a-ride driver is 70 years old. And guess what? They're the ones that are helping people get in and off these buses. And so there's a health and wellness issue for the system as well, right? For those drivers. And so participating, you're right, Nicole, participating in those conversations will allow you to think about, well, how do I help the transit providers get access potentially to some volunteer drivers that are younger and that can physically manage the shopping that I want my customers to do. So there's a relationship you could have with your volunteer driver programs that might really add value to your business as well.
Yeah. So we covered a lot today, and just going through all the ways that we have talked about it. I'm very, again, my thing is health disparities and really alleviating those in communities and realizing that the conversation about our food systems, you are very much instrumental in it, and it's also instrumental to your business too. So all these conversations that are that seem like they're above you, they really are part of how you run your business and how you show up in communities, and you can be part of them too. Connecting with SHIP is a really good place to start. There's so many other regionally accessible organizations, like I said, Extension, who are committed to like supporting local retailers, local food leaders, which is what we consider everyone in this room food leaders, just so you know. That they can have an impact on how communities end up eating, playing, working, all of that. All right, that's about it from me. We've gone through a lot of questions. I'm happy to stay and answer some. If you guys have to rush, feel free to, but I'll be here. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.